Welcome back. So today we're going to focus on common myths with imposter syndrome. And there's four that I'm going to cover. The first is only unqualified people go through this. The second is I don't belong. The third, it's a sign of weakness, right? It's weakness. The fourth is when I perfect this, I'll feel better. Have you ever said any of those things to yourself? Have you ever felt like, I got to do more and then I'll feel better? And you do more and you do more and you do more. And you don't feel better. Nothing changes, right? And so they're just myths. And our goal here today is to debunk them, right? So let's get into it. What makes you feel this way? Why do you feel this way? Is it true that you don't belong? Is it true that you're unqualified? When we think about unqualified people, you were hired for a reason. You started that business for a reason. Is it based on your qualifications? How many of us have started from the beginning? We've all been new to something. We've had to figure it out, but that doesn't mean we're unqualified. Let's get into the myth about I don't belong. Is it that you don't belong? Or is it that you're struggling because you don't see yourself? You don't see anyone that looks like you. You don't see anyone of the same gender. You don't see anyone of the same age. You don't see anyone with the same background. Is that why you don't feel like you belong? Because you may be an only in the room? Being an only also has its impact, and it leads to imposter syndrome. And it also can lead to potentially, I'm here because I'm an only. But I want you to think about that because it's just a myth. You are in that room for a reason. You are on that team for a reason. You are leading that team and organization for a reason. You started that business for a reason. And it's often that these thoughts will come into play. And we will feel like I'm not supposed to be here. So I'm just going to shrink, as we talked about in the previous video, or I'm going to retreat. I'm going to leave. I'm going to get out of here. So it's also important to think about how you show up when things start to feel bad. So let's talk about the myth that you are carrying. I want you to take a minute and sit down and write down what's the myth that you are carrying. If it's none of the ones that I described, that's fine. Write down the myth that you're carrying. Take a minute. Once you write that down, I want you to think about why you are carrying that myth. What makes you think that you don't belong? You're not supposed to be in that room. You need more education. Everybody's more qualified than you. Really think through that. So I want you to continue to reflect on that because these videos will build upon each other. So I'm going to share a quick story. My journey with one of these myths. My journey was I held on to I needed to perfect things. I needed to know it all when I came into a room. And that was because I didn't know what questions would come my way. I didn't know what I should expect. But what I came to realize was I didn't need to know it all. There's a reason why I have a team around me. There's a reason why I have experts around me. It is for them to also add value. It is for them to speak up. I may not need to know the details. I just need to know where we are at that time. And so I let that go. And when I felt like I didn't have an answer, I just asked, can I get back to you and provide you that answer? At this moment, I don't know, right? Or I don't have the latest status. Let me get back to you. And that relieved things for me because I didn't feel like I needed to have it all together. It needed to be perfect. I needed to have all the answers. I just asked for the opportunity to get the latest status. And I think people would appreciate that more, right? And so perfection shows up in different ways. And it can lead to imposter syndrome because you feel like if it's not perfect, I won't be able to move on. And so that's how I was able to reframe. That's how I was able to look at it different. And I ask you to take that myth that you wrote down and think about it. Why do you have that myth? Where did it come from? And how can you look at it differently? Because they're just myths, and our goal is to debunk it, and I know that you will. See you in the next video.